Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good, as per usual. Today's going to be a really fun one. I'm actually really excited for this one. One, because it is the final film and thing that I have to watch and review from last year. So that's amazing. I finally finished that list, so I can now get on to my list that I wrote all the way back in season one of topics and things to sort of check up on. Also, number two, I'm a huge fan of the yautja or the Predator franchise. I love the race. I love the species. I love the films. I think they're all amazing. Even the latest one, Predators, I really enjoyed. I know a lot of people didn't, but I'm a big fan. So I'm really excited to be talking about Prey, which is meant to be chronologically the first Predator movie, or sort of the first sort of human encounter with the Predators. So I'm really excited. I'm so happy. But before I get into it, before I can gush and before I can sort of talk about this movie, I do want to say, if you want to be updated on everything and anything that I'm watching, playing, reading, and all that jazz, make sure you follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod. And if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you're not subscribed, why not? I'm weird, I'm wonderful, I'm ginger, I'm funny, I'm quirky, I'm wise, I'm strange. I podcast, I talk to myself. Follow me. I need followers, so subscribe to me. That'd really help immensely. As of recording this, I'm currently at 84 subscribers. So if that could go up, it would be immense. So thank you very much. So as I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of the Predator series. I've watched them all. I have the first two movies in a special edition box set on my shelf behind me. I have all the movies but Predator, the newest one, I think, Predators. I've got all of them but that. I loved the one that they did with what's his name now? Something Brody. The guy who's always in the Wes Anderson movies. And he plays like a badass mercenary, and you've got like thieves, and you've got like SAS and special forces, and they're stuck on a planet. I really love that idea. I wish they would do more of those sort of films, like take it away from like Earth and just put them on a planet and like it's a hunting ground. That sort of thing. I even loved AVP, Alien vs Predator. I've got the first Alien vs Predator special edition on DVD. I don't own Requiem because Requiem was terrible. But even so, I've watched the extended version of both those films, and the extended version of Requiem does kind of fix some things, but it's still overly and not a great movie. But the point is I'm trying to make is the fact that I'm a big Predator fan. I love anything to do with the Predator series. I've read the books. Yes, shouldn't really be surprised. I've read the books too. Well, there are books, Predator books. They're mostly graphic novels. Haven't got around to reading those yet, but there actually are physical books, right? And they're called the Rage War series. There is 3 books in the series. You've got Predator Incursion, Alien Invasion, and Alien vs Predator Armageddon, because they had to bring the xenomorphs into it. They had to, my rating was like the first book was amazing. It was a 4-star, and then as the series went on, when they sort of brought in the xenomorphs and other things, it started to lose its quality. So like the second book, I gave it a 3-star because it was good, but it wasn't nothing to cry home about. And then the third book, Alien vs Predator Armageddon, was a 2-star. It was meh. It was eh. I read it but wasn't a big fan. For anybody interested, I'll read you the synopsis. So the book came out in the 25th of September 2015. Predator ships steam into human space in unprecedented numbers. The colonial marines, controlled by Weyland-Yutani, responded to the incursion, thus entering the Rage War. This terrifying assault by the yautja cannot go unchallenged, yet the cost of combat is high. Predators are master combatants, and each encounter yields a high body count. Then, when Lieutenant Johnny Maines and his marines, the Voidlarks, entered the fray, they discover an enemy deadlier than any could imagine. Book 1 in an epic trilogy that continues in Alien Invasion and concludes in Alien vs Predator Armageddon. The universe will forever be changed. So that's sort of heads up sort of the brief sort of introduction to the first book. I'm not here to talk about the books, so don't worry. I'm not here to talk about that. But I've read all the books. I love the Xenomorphs, but I always found myself being more of a sort of yautja sort of fan. That's how I know what they're called, because of the books and other sort of literature, that they are the yautja. You have to kind of say it with a bit of an accent. It's just yautja. It's a hard one, especially for somebody like me who's dyslexic. But I think I'm saying it right, yautja. But I am a big fan of this series. So when I heard that they were making sort of a origins sort of movie, shall we say, that sadly wasn't the yautja on their home planet. It wasn't origins of them. It was more of an origins of like the first sort of encounter between humans and predators and the yautja. I was excited, and just to say that it was set, during sort of the Civil War against sort of some of the most deadliest warriors on the planet, which were the Native Americans. I can't remember exactly what tribe it is, because again, as I do with all my reviews, I haven't watched the movie yet, so I don't know anything other than what I've heard. But I'm here for it. Some of the most deadliest warriors in human history against one of the most deadliest hunters in the sort of known universe. So both of them together is incredible. And what I love about this idea and this concept is that the sort of Native Americans, they were so in touch with nature, they were so in touch with hunting and with sort of, shall we say, sort of, they were the ultimate hunters. Some of the best. They thrived and lived graciously in the Americans for generations before sort of the white man came. So they knew what they were doing. So it's a great idea to go back to that time to have, look, we've got one of the best hunters ever in human history against the best hunter in the universe. But this leaves it open. Like, I'd love to see sort of, I don't know, samurai warriors against a predator. I'd like to see, I don't know, like what else could we do? What would be cool? Crusaders, the Knights Templar, a band of Knights Templar against yautja, pirates. I don't know, I'm just throwing things out in the top of my head that are coming out now. Vikings, that'd be a good one. Vikings against it. But like, this leaves it open for more sort of mini movies or mini series or however they want to do it, of other stories being told, of other times that the yautja have came down to earth and decided to attack and to hunt, basically. Because one thing that you find from looking deeper into the literature and lore of the yautja, of the predators, it's not a game to them. It's not. They're not just doing it for fun. They're hunter, like, they're what you would think a hunter would be. They're doing it like we think it's sport because it's against us, but it's not against sport. It's a way to be like, look, they go out and they find planets that have a species on it that can fight back. Right, and then what they watch you and they monitor to see sort of how you fight, where the most danger is, how humans fight, and they kind of watch you, and then they go, okay, now we've come to the terms to think that these sort of species, can put up a fight and are decent and know what they're doing. Then we will come in and we'll sort of start one by one. We'll take them out until somebody basically comes up the ranks and be like, look, takes you on, and if it's like a rite of passage for them. It's the right passion for them to come in, defeat a noble warrior, because it is all noble to them. It's very noble. It's not a sport. It's a rite of passage. So if you defeat one of them, it means that you're a better warrior, which means they will leave you alone. They will go away. Whereas if they beat you, they're going to keep going until they sort of are beat, or that's it. Until they've done enough, and then they go off and they become warriors and chieftains and leaders of tribes and something. Like, it's very, very fascinating, the yautja species. It's incredibly interesting, the lore that goes into them. And what I'm hoping, that if this episode does well, that if I enjoy this movie, which I'm sure I will, because I even enjoyed the latest sort of Predator movie, even though a lot of people didn't like it, which was done by Shane Black, who actually is a bit of a trivia for you. Shane Black was in the original Predators movie as one of the Marines. That's a bit of knowledge for you that some people might know, might not know. But hopefully, if this review goes well, and like I said, if I enjoy it and people like it, maybe I'll do a series. Maybe I'll go and watch every single Predator movie. I have the first two movies with Donald Glover and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've got those that we can watch. We can watch them in order, from like chronological order in the lore. I'll even put on AVP. We'll watch Alien vs Predator, which I again, I quite enjoy Alien vs Predator. We put that on, and we'll see how sort of now we sort of match sort of the Predator and the xenomorphs together, see how they match up. And I don't know, there's fun things that we can do. We can be more than just a review. We can have a bit of fun with it. But it's all down to how this one is received. Really, if people like it, people don't like it. Hopefully, people do, because I really enjoy the yautja, and anytime I get to talk about the Predators, I'm excited, I'm elated. That's why I'm stuttering, and that's why I can't really get my words out, because I'm generally just really excited just to sit down and to watch this movie, which I will do now after I finish the introduction. And then when we come back, I've watched the movie, talked about a review, and it's just going to be, I'm sure I'm going to be ecstatic. I'm sure I'm going to be elated. So, without further ado, because I'm really, really excited, and I feel like I've said everything that I need to say now. You can obviously tell that I'm a big fan. It's time to watch the movie. It's time to get into it. I can't wait. Let's go. Here's the review. Right, so I've just finished watching Prey. Wow, this is I'm lost for words. This movie's incredible. Okay, as a action, hardcore, epic, so R-rated, sort of gory movie, perfect. Right, as a Predator movie, fantastic, perfect. As a Hunter movie, incredible. You know, everything about this movie is fantastic. It's absolutely incredible. It's a 5 tier sort of film. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a lot of 93. Now, again, I always say don't ever put your cards on Rotten Tomatoes, but it was widely loved, widely sort of reviewed. Everybody's really positive about it, and I can see why now, because it is a fantastic, awesome movie. This film really takes it back to basics, takes it back to what the Predator franchise was originally. Takes it back to sort of the hunter versus the hunted, one of the most skilled hunters on the planet against one of the most skilled hunters in the universe, as well as we know of. Puts them together and see who it wins. Now, obviously, it being a human movie made by humans, the human always wins. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he beat the Predator, and Donald Glover, he beat it. The human always wins. But it's always against the best, the most skilled, most cleverest. And it's not always the strongest, but it's always the person who is the most tactile, the most survival, most adaptive survives, because you need to be against somebody who is the ultimate predator, who is the ultimate warrior, And this idea about getting the Comanche warriors, some of the greatest, most fearsome hunters and warriors in known history against a predator. It's an incredible idea, incredible concept, and it takes it back to basics. You get rid of guns, you get rid of, being able to shoot from afar. You get really up close and dirty. The chance to really, bows, arrows, axes, knives, really close quarters combat. It takes it back to basics, takes it back to proper hunting, about tracking, and just being smart and being clever. Like, I'm not a hunter. I've never been hunting. I don't think I could ever go hunting and take an animal's life. It's not in me. But I've had a luxury life. I haven't had to live out, in the wild. I live in like the 21st century. I don't have to live out in the wild. I haven't had to live, sort of hunt for my food. If I want food, I go to the fridge. So I haven't been brought up to be able to know how to hunt. This is a different time. These are people who had to hunt. That survival was a day by day thing. You're alive today, but that only matters if you go out and hunt and you know how to hunt and you hunt proficiently. If you don't, you won't live till tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I like that back to basics sort of idea scenario. I love how that works. Right. To give you sort of an idea of the synopsis of this movie, obviously I don't want to go into spoilers, because again, if you haven't seen this film, please do. It's epic. It's awesome. It's not really story heavy. It's more so sort of, if you're a Predator fan, if you're a fan of the Predator series, it's perfect for you, because it's not very story heavy. It's easy to get into. It's hardcore action, gore, Predator, close quarters combat action. It's everything that you want, So there's not much to spoil in terms of story. It's mostly spoiling in terms of the outcomes of certain fights and certain one-to-one combat scenarios. But even that, I want to sort of stay away from the heavy stuff. and just talk about the more sort of relevant parts of the actual film. So, synopsis of this movie is in 1719, in the Great Plains, a skilled Comanche warrior protects her tribe from a highly evolved alien predator that hunts humans for sport, fighting against wildness, dangerous colonizers, and this mysterious creature to keep her people safe. Now, this movie is incredible, as I mentioned. It is you have the main character. His name is Naru, Naru. She's absolutely badass, played by Amber Midfunder. And the movie starts off really slow, but usually, I always said if a movie starts off slow, sometimes that could be a bad thing, or sometimes it could be a good thing. Here in this film, it's a very good thing because the slow start really gets you into the trenches, really gets you sort of used to the idea of who the main character is and the struggles that she's going through. How that because she's a woman in a tribe full of a very male dominant hunter sort of gatherer sort of tribe, she's meant to be a healer. Her role is meant to heal the warriors. She's not meant to go out and hunt, right? So because she's a woman, she's already got sort of the pushback from the men in her tribe. Apart from her brother, is the only person who really believes in her. He is sort of the alpha male, sort of the next in line to be chief. And basically, she's already up against it all, but she wants to hunt. And there is a great line in this film where, the one elder lady, the elder sort of sage, she goes to Naru and she says, you know, that this hunting rite, that this rite of passage that you want to go on, you don't need to do it. You don't have to go with it. There's other things. Why do you want to do it so much? And she just looks and she goes, I want to do it because you don't believe that I can. None of you believe that I can do it, so I want to prove you all wrong. So it really gets you, it's a slow start, but it really gets you into who she is as a character, what she's up against, and it really makes you want to fight for her and believe in her. But also it shows you how good of a hunter that she is and what goes into hunting, and she slowly learns to kind of and you learn with her about sort of the different types of how to hunt, how to track, how she does certain things, and why she is better than the men are. It's absolutely fantastic. And like I said, she isn't considered a threat by her people. And this will kind of is done in such a way and brought up in certain situations that you see as the story goes on that nobody believes in her. Nobody believes that she can do it. Nobody considers her a threat, not just because she's a woman, but also the fact of because she's not as strong as the others. She's not as quick as the others, So everybody sort of underestimates her, and that's her greatest skill. That's her greatest weapon, because the predator underestimates her. There are many moments where she becomes face to face with the predator, but because she's not perceived as a threat, because every time he meets her, she hasn't got a weapon in her hands and she's not sort of attacking and she's not fretful. He leaves her. He watches her. He watches her get attacked by colonizers. He watches her get attacked by a bear. He just watches how she survives. But each time she kind of gets away with the skin of her teeth, and the predator sees this. He tracks it and goes, "Well, she's not a threat to me." Because the yautja are very noble creatures. Believe it or not, they are a very noble warrior race. They won't attack you if you're not a threat. It's not just because it's not noble, but also because they're a warrior. I'm not going to fight something that can't fight back. One, it's not noble, but also it'd be a waste of energy. It'd be a waste of time to put my skills against somebody who can't match my skills. And who can't best me, or who can't at least put up a fight, make it somewhat of a challenge. So they won't take on the weak, they won't take on the young, and they won't sort of attack you unless you are a threat to them, unless they deem you a threat. And that's this whole movie. It's this backlash. She's like, yeah, she's not a threat. She is not a danger to me. She's not a danger to anybody else. And everybody in her tribe just laughs at her, apart from her brother. Her brother sees her true sort of nature, but again, because he's the leader, he just wants to keep. And he's her brother. He wants to keep her safe. He's like, I know you're a good hunter, but I want to keep you safe. You don't have to do this. But again, it's that fact of because everybody else doesn't think she can do it. She wants to prove him wrong, to be like, look, I can do it. I can hunt. I can look after myself. Please let me join in. Let me be a part of the tribe. Let me be more than just a healer. And I love that. I love that sort of character development and how sort of the idea of her being innocent and her being sort of seen as innocent, how that is used against her, but how she also uses that against the people that use that against her, and uses it against the sort of the yautja, the predator. Absolutely fantastic. Um, Also, this movie's brutal. There's tons of gore and epic fight scenes. I'm going to stay away from any of the really big important ones, but like there are moments where sort of she gets to be badass, and sort of the yautja gets to be badass as well. There's this one moment where she's tracking down the predator, but she doesn't know as of yet what it is, and she finds a bear, and she goes to attack the bear, and it doesn't go to plan, and her bow sort of breaks, and she ends up having to run for her life. She gets one shot off on the bear, but again, one measly arrow isn't going to take down a fully grown bear, and it runs her down. It's hungry. Like it's going for you, going for it. So she manages to hide away inside of a beaver sort of home, sort of hive. This bear trying to break its way through, and in the background you can just hear the sort of noise, and you can hear the splash of the water, and the camera pans. And the yautja's like he's camouflaged, he's invisible, but the bear knows it's something's there, and he can partly see it. And there's like I don't know how to explain this scene. It was a very visual sort of split scene, but I try my best. The yautja goes hand to hand with the bear. There is punching. Like the bear gets a few bites in. Like his mouth is dripping with blood. Like the predator blood is obviously fluorescent, so it glows. So you got this glowing blood all over the bear where it's got a few bites in, and the yautja's like hand to hand. So he's getting knives, he's slicing it. Again, it's a big, fully grown bear. Its blades on its claws are as sharp, as the yautja's blades. So they're ripping each other to shreds. They're biting each other. Now, obviously, eventually the yautja beats him, but how he beats him is incredible. So he's managed. So the yautja's down. He gets down, sort of like partly crouches, kind of in that stance of just like, come at me. And the bear comes at him, and it's just epic. In what he just, as the bear goes to lunge for him, he just turns around, and with one sort of roundhouse, sort of southpaw, just whack, one punch, breaks his neck. The bear goes down, picks him up, and just rips this bear in half with its hands, and the blood just drips all over it, and it's just epic. And there are many moments in this movie where the yautja shows how sort of badass and how strong these sort of these creatures are. They are incredibly strong, and they're incredibly sort of tactile hunters, predators. They're the ultimate warriors. This species lives for this sort of thing. you know. And I love it. That's what you want out of a movie like this. You want the hardcore, you want the blood, you want the gore, you want to see things get ripped and teared apart. And you do. People lose legs, lose limbs. You get to see all new equipment that I've never seen the yautja use before. Obviously, as I said, I'm a big fan of the yautja lore. I love their species. I find they're absolutely fascinating. And if you do your research into the graphic novels and you read the books and what goes into actually being a yautja, being a warrior, they're always advancing. They're always getting smarter because we only see any movie that's ever been of the yautja has always been against humans. So we've only ever seen them on the screen against people, against us. But they do fight other alien races as well. They fight not creatures. They go to planets where there aren't sort of intelligent sort of humanoids. They fight big hulking alien creatures on other planets. They fight xenomorphs in some stories and stuff like that. With each sort of encounter of each race that they meet, they learn and they take technology. They sort of take DNA from certain creatures. That's what they take the spinal column for, the brain. It's not just a trophy. It's also because you have the brain as well as the sort of DNA inside of the skull, inside of the spine of the creature that you've killed. So that if there's a creature that has sort of heavy armor, their bones are really strong, they'll take the bones and they'll use it as armor. They'll take sort of the DNA for one creature so it's a better hunter, it's got better senses, so it can hear better. It'll take that and they'll implement that in themselves, in their technology. So they're always learning from anything that bests them, so anything that keeps beating them, or kills a lot of their people. If they manage to take one of these things down, they will learn how it does it, and then it will evolve. So each time their technology is always getting better. And the predator that we see here, the technology he's using is very much sort of, it's advanced, but it's primitively advanced. It's blades, it is shields. He's using sort of a way, like he's not got the plasma sort of cannon that he has on his shoulder that they use to fire sort of the plasma bolts. He's using sort of like homing sort of bolts that just fly around, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy with Yondu. He has that one arrow where you can whistle and it flies around. He's got bolts like that. He's got this like big massive spear that breaks into two. That's like you got a club and you've got a sword, and he uses it. You also got the old faithful, that net, that wire net that you throw on you, and it crushes it and just slowly starts to wrap around and compacts whoever's stuck in this net. From AVP. They're always evolving, they're always sort of learning, and you can tell that it's the 1700s. The yautja, yeah, they're far more advanced than us, but they haven't sort of, as far as we know, they haven't fought many humans, so they haven't really advanced enough to, by the time we get to sort of predators that are a lot more advanced, they have a lot better technology. Again, as the series goes on, how the movies go on, we see how there are more and more advanced, and how they get better with technology and that sort of thing. But I really love that. I love seeing the different types of yautja. I like seeing how this sort of feral sort of yautja, how he was, how big he is, and how his mask looks and how his armor looks. That, for me, that tells me a lot, as being a fan of the yautja, what kind of sort of predator he is, what kind of hunter he is. You know what I mean? Because there are different factions in the yautja, and if you read the books and you read the graphic novels, you realize there are different factions. There's bigger ones, there's smaller ones, there's ones that are more feral than others. They're different tribes, all in the same planet, but they're all just different tribes, and they have different fighting styles, and they have different weapons and different prey that they hunt. It's absolutely fantastic. Generally, I highly recommend to look into the yautja. They're an incredible race, incredible sort of species that has been created here. There's more to them just the movies. Moving on, see Naru, who is, as I mentioned, is badass. She's played by Amber Midthunder. She absolutely crushes the role. She's incredible in the role. There are moments where she really conveys, the fear. You're scared with her, because for most of this movie, you don't really see the predator. Most of the time, whenever you do see him, he's camouflaged. So you don't really see him. You don't see him without the camouflage on, not really till near to the end. So you feel that fear, that sort of that unknown, that moment of like, he's there, you can hear him. And again, if you're a Predator fan, the sounds, you know sort of where he might be. There are many moments where I was like, he's going to be behind, he's going to appear behind. The camera was done in such a great way that you can always tell where he is, but he's not there, but he is there. And Amber does a fantastic job of really conveying that on screen, being like, she knows, she's incredibly clever, but everybody doubts her, all the men doubt her. So she's like, she knows, be quiet, he's around, shush. But they don't, the big bravado. And there are many moments where, again, they go face to face, where she sees the yautja, she sees him take on members of her tribe, takes on colonists, and she's staying quiet, she's staying hidden, she's watching the pressure, she's watching how he fights, she's learning, she's being very sort of clever, being the perfect hunter, really. Instead of running out and being loud and being brash, and I'm here, she's watching, she's being quiet, she's hiding. She knows, she's learning that he doesn't take notice of her because she's not a threat. And again, she just conveys she plays this role so well, she crushes it. And to us, the whole cast does a fantastic job with this movie. This whole film, the casting was perfect. The action was perfect. The yautja, the character design that they went with, and the technology and how he fights and the weapons he uses, all incredible. The pacing all works fine from start to middle end. I was enthralled. Yes, it is a start beginning, but as soon as you kind of get over the fact of, you learn everything you need to learn about the character, her role, and how she's perceived. From the middle to the end, it's just non-stop action. It's just gore, fighting, ripping, tear, everything that you want to see and more from a sort of Predator movie. There is one thing, Naru, she does have a dog that she uses. There are many moments that I was terrified that this dog was going to die. The dog doesn't die. That's not really a spoiler, but like I'm just saving anybody the fact that she does have a dog that helps her. So don't worry, the dog never really gets hurt. But there are many times where I'm thinking this dog's gonna, and if they like, I didn't want them to kill the dog, but I feel like if the dog was to die, I think I probably would have had a lot more sort of more emotional. I had tons of emotional connection to the character, but I would have had a lot more emotional connection to her because I'd be like, yeah, fuck this guy, let's fuck him up. He killed that dog, let's go. This guy dies tonight. You know what I mean? Like, I would have been there in the trenches with her. Like, I probably would have died, but like I would have, I'm here. Like he killed the dog. Let's go. The dog doesn't die though, thankfully, because I think I probably would have been in tears at that point and would have been able to focus on the rest of the movie. But everybody, the whole cast, the whole thing, it's crushed. It's incredible. It's amazing, and I can understand now why this movie was so widely sort of received and why everybody loved it so much because it is just a fantastic from start to middle to end, a great, fantastic, perfect action Predator movie. It's way better than the last one. Like, granted, even though I liked the Predators movie from 2018, I know a lot of people didn't. Even though I liked that movie, um, it did have its foibles. There were certain things that weren't great in it, but this is return to form. This is going back to the basics of hunting, of sort of man versus, well, or not man, sort of prey versus hunter, and then see who wins. It's fantastic, and that's why they called it prey because she's considered prey, but she's not, and you learn that as the story goes on that she's more of a hunter than anybody else. She's probably one of the best hunters to actually go up against. In my opinion, I would actually go as far to say she's probably one of the best hunters to go up against the yautja in any of the movies. She did actually more damage, I would say, over time than any of the others. She, I would say, yeah, she's probably the best warrior to go up against any of the yautjas that we've seen, and she's probably did the most damage, and yeah, probably the most badass. I would say that generally. And I can't explain it anymore without going into spoilers, but generally over time she does the most damage and she's most clever. Yeah, as of what we've seen as of now, I would say so. Also, one thing I do want to mention because I feel like it's not mentioned enough, sadly, but the outstanding representation for the Comanche nation, for the Comanche tribe of North America, as well as all other Native American tribes. Um, the sort of representation is incredible here. It's authentic. It's perfect. It's everything it needs to be. And I just wish there was more representation for this group of people. I really, really do. Some of my favorite stories, follow Native Americans. Spirit Stallion, one of my favorite animated movies. Follows them. You have Brother Bear, another fantastic story. It follows them, and I'm glad that the Comanches, as well as other sort of Native American tribes, were allowed to properly be represented here. And I think it was just fantastic. And all the actors were sort of Native American, which was great, perfect. That's what I mean. Everything was just perfectly done. Everything was just done in such a way, that made me love it even more. And when I did more research into the film and to find that, it was so much love and care went into it. Like, yes, they were making a Predator movie, but they wanted to make sure that it was as authentic as possible and made sure that everybody who should be represented was represented and was represented fairly and done really, really well. I'm glad, and I would like more of this, not just representation, but I would love a sequel with Naru, with this tribe. I'd like a sequel where I don't know, where like she's now gone up against the yautja. She's obviously won. You know, um, she now trains her people. She tells them the story. She tells them the tales of her sort of fight, hunting down the ultimate warrior, and she trains them and how to spot it, and she trains it how to be a warrior and how to hunt these sort of creatures just in case these creatures return. I would love that. I'd love to see that. You know, if there was ever to make a sequel, I'd love that. Like a group of like her leading her tribe of warriors that are now more sort of advanced. And now she actually has, again, it's not really a spoiler, but she has a bit of sort of yautja technology that she uses to hunt. Again, she shows them how to use it and how to sort of adapt and I would just love a sequel of more of that representation, more of taking sort of the hunter versus the hunted, more of the prey versus hunter, more of the technology of the yautja used against the yautja. I want to see more of that, so I hope there is a sequel. I really, really do. And this movie did really, really well. It was really successful. It was made on even though it's a lot of money, you would come to say it was, in terms of cinema, was a shoestring budget on 65 million, which again is a lot of money, but in terms of films and what goes into production and that sort of thing, 65 million is actually not a lot. So if they could make this movie with 65 million, if they had a sequel with a bigger budget, just to think what they could do. So I'm really, really excited to and hope that there is a sequel to see more. One thing I do want to mention before I get to my overall thoughts is that there is an epic. The final fight is epic. I ain't going to go into full details, but it really accumulates everything that we've learned for who this character is, what she's been through, and also what we've seen her learn from observing the yautja, observing the predator take out sort of members of her tribe, colonists. She learns how to bait it, how to hide away from it, how to use the sort of the predator, what the predator does against the predator. Like there are moments like we all know that the predators love to jump from tree to tree. If they're in a sort of environment where they can get ahead by jumping from tree to tree or building from building, they will do that. And she uses that against him. She actually gets the tree and she puts spikes up against it. So she runs towards this tree. So she knows the predator's going to jump and she's not going to run after her. He's going to jump up in the trees and try to get ahead of her that way. So she runs to this tree. The predator, again, just focused on her. Once it jumps on this tree, is impaled on its side and its arm by these spikes. But she doesn't even stop at the tree. Once she gets to the tree, she runs away from the tree. The predator's already jumped for it, impaled itself, and she's running back because she knows, she's already planned out what she's going to do, where she's going to fight him. She learns. She is the perfect hunter because she watches, she observes, she sees how it fights, how it reacts, and what it does. And she uses it against the predator. You know what I mean? And the end fight, it's quick. It's there's no real big there's no sort of explosions and no set pieces or anything like that. It's organically, naturally, sort of back to basics, hunter versus hunter. It yeah, it's what the first Predator did. With Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's very much of like no weapons. Hand to hand, sort of. We're just going to take it step by step. And it's perfect. And I loved it. I loved it for that. And it had me in chills, had me enthralled. So yeah, there is no end credit scene. Sadly, there is like a artistic sort of reel at the end of the movie that kind of retells the story of Naru from the beginning of the movie to the end. It does kind of set up with the end of the movie that in this little reel that as they do whenever a yautja is defeated in battle, the sort of tribe that sort of, shall we say, other yautjas in the tribe will come down to find what killed it and who, not to sort of seek revenge. It's kind of come down to the fact of you. In other terms, you bested one of our warriors, so you are yourself a great warrior. We deem you with a lot of respect, and we'll give you a gift. And the gift is usually a weapon, or it's a mark, or it's something to kind of as an offering of like, you are a great warrior. We respect you. We'll leave you alone. We'll go away. And it kind of leaves it open in that way. Kind of, it's not said. It's more so in a picture. And I would imagine that's what would come next if there was to make a sequel, how the sequel would start. But overall, my overall thoughts of this film is that I want a sequel. I love it that much that I want to see another one. I would happily watch a Prey 2. Hopefully that, they can put a bigger budget on it. But then again, even if you did get a bigger budget, I think what they did with 65 million was more than enough. So even if they gave them little bit more, or they gave them like 100 million or something like that, I still think, whatever they decide to do, whatever direction they decide to do would work. I would love to see sort of Naru, training her people, become more advanced sort of fighters. And maybe this tribe isn't so noble. Maybe this tribe wants to get revenge. And now instead of just one predator, it's two or three. And then this whole tribe has to take them down one by one. But, they're no match for the yautja are no match for this new advanced sort of fighting tribe. I don't know. Whatever they decide to go with, I'm all here for. I just like how I just want more sort of yautja movies. I want more Predator sort of films. There are Easter eggs in this one. There are certain hints and nods to future Predator movies. It all sort of works fantastically in among itself. The interweavingness is great, because there's been loads over these. There's so many Predator movies out there, but they all sort of interconnect with each other. And I love that. I love those little foibles, little things. All the characters are incredible. All sort of the main cast, all the actors, they do a fantastic job. Beginning, middle, and end, absolutely fantastic. The gore is incredible. Fight scenes, epic, brutal, gory. The representation is all on point, perfect. Everything that you'd wanted more. So overall, yeah, I love this movie, and I would highly recommend to check it out if you're a Predator fan, or you're not. If you want to put something on and you want to, be enthralled, some great action, sort of, not too much story, and a lot of sort of real high octane sort of blood, gore, and just fighting and epicness, then this is your movie. This is the movie for you. But if you're a Predator fan, again, this is more than enough that what you need. It's back to basics. It's fun. It's fantastic. If you've got Disney Plus, you can watch it on there. If you have Hulu, it's on there. I'm sure it's out on it's probably out on DVD now. I don't know, but yeah, this movie's perfect. I loved it, and I'm so glad I finally managed to get around to watching it, because it's been I put it at the end of my list because I knew that this was the one I was most excited for, and this is what I would leave off to kind of wrap up, or catching up all the movies that I've got to watch last year, to finally get around to being able to move on and look at new topics and new things that I've got on my list. So I wanted to leave this one to last, and I wasn't disappointed. And yeah, so that's been my thoughts and feelings of the 2022 movie Prey. Absolutely fantastic, absolutely amazing. Highly recommend it. And yeah, so I'm going to move on to the end now to quickly wrap up. Yeah, all right, let's move. Let's go. So that's it. There's the end. That is all she wrote. That is my review of Prey. As I mentioned, I really love this movie. But that's my thoughts. What did you think? I want to hear from you, Beans. I want to hear from you guys. What do you feel of my review? Do you like my thoughts and my opinions? Have you seen the movie? If you have, do you like it? Do you agree with me? If you haven't seen the movie, have I made you excited? All this feedback and more, I would love to hear from you, Beans. So best way to do that would be to follow me on Twitter at Nerdstalgic_pod to keep up to date on everything and anything that I'm doing, as well as you can tweet me and let me know what you feel about this review and any of the reviews or any sort of episodes, topics that I talk about here on the show. Also, you can find this podcast on Spotify. You can find me on Spotify podcasting for Spotify podcasting, or what used to be called Anchor, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcast. You can find me on Audible, TuneIn. You can find me also on YouTube. Just type in the Nerdstalgic podcast on YouTube and you'll find me there. If you are listening on YouTube, again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. It really helps out immensely. And just share, even if you don't want to like, share it with a friend, somebody you feel like will like it. That helps me greatly as well. Also, if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to give me a star rating from 1 to 5 stars. 5 star, best thing you heard in your life, to 1 star being absolutely terrible. Whatever you feel like is fair. would be again greatly appreciated. If it was everything that you do, just listening, just listen to me now talk is enough. You know, every time somebody listens, it's a download, and each download adds up, and eventually, you know, the more people that listen, the more the show will be seen elsewhere and publicized and all that stuff. You know, so just being here and listening to me, I appreciate it. So, thank you for that. Thank you for everything that you guys do. To be honest, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. So, you know, it means a lot. It really, really does. So to wrap things up, because I don't want this to go on too long, and I'm really bad at endings. I'm really bad at ending things. I just want to keep talking. I never know when to stop. So I'm going to force myself to end now and say thank you very, very much for listening. I've been your host, Luke the Human. You've been listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast, and I appreciate you greatly, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.